Hi everyone and welcome to DM Your Mentors. This is your ACCA mentor Mridul Khanna, and today we will be working through the previous year question Bellahouston Company from PM. If you have any doubts with regard to this question, do let me know in the comments down below, or even if you have any other queries, I'll try just let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to reply them as soon as possible. Hit like and subscribe to our channel if you want more such ACCA question based videos. All right, so here we go with the Bellahouston Company. So through this question, we will be covering the linear programming topic of our PM exam. Okay, and it is always recommended, again I'll repeat it, that we first read the requirements. कि जब हम पहले requirements पढ़ते हैं, then we get an idea as to what we will be looking for when we will be reading the exhibits. ठीक है, Pranjal, if you have any doubt in between, do let me know. Okay, by like unmuting your mic. All right, so let's read the requirements first. So we have three requirements, and the first requirement has two parts. So I'll start with that. Uh, uh, Calculate the optimum production plan and the resulting total contribution earned for month of March, assuming that the order with Run Wild is supplied in full. The second part is calculate the maximum financial penalty Bellahouston Company would be prepared to accept from Run Wild if it doesn't complete Run Wild's order in full. Okay, so यहाँ से मेरे को क्या दिख रहा है कि we need to perform quite a few calculations to arrive at some conclusion. Then we move to the next requirement, which is discuss whether Bellahouston Company should fulfill Run Wild's order in full in March. Okay, so here we need to provide some kind of commentary and some kind of basically we need to give a sort of a conclusion whether we should fulfill the Run Wild's order in full. The last requirement is define the variables and formulate the constraints and objective function to be used in a linear programming model to determine the optimum usage of resources in April. All right. So here we have read the requirements. Now we will be reading the actual question. Bellahouston Company manufactures three types of running shoes, which it sells to sports clothing retailers: road, which are for running on roads; spikes, which are used for racing on athletics tracks; and trail, which are used for running off road in rural areas. Okay, so this company produces three kinds of shoes, and all three kinds of shoes have different purposes. Each of these products use differing amounts of the same resources. All right. So from what I can see down below is that we have different resources which we utilize to produce these goods. Financial information and the resource requirements related to these products are as follows. This is the information that has been given to us. We have been given the selling price per pair of shoes. We have three kinds of shoes here: road, spikes, and trail. So this is per pair of shoes, basically per unit of each of these kind of products. Then we have variable cost per pair of shoes. We have direct material, direct labor, machine hours, and then we have the fixed overheads absorbed per pair of shoes. So they have also allocated the fixed cost to each of these units. Per profit per pair of shoes. This is the last that we get at the end when we subtract the fixed cost. Pranjal, are you getting till here? Any doubts or anything? If my voice is clear,
No, no,
it's all good. Okay, perfect. Uh, then we have, okay, just to like explain it here, like what they have mentioned here. So as you can see, these figures, so basically these figures are in dollar sign. So basically what these are denoting is that how much it is costing to produce each unit of these products. So here, for example, it says direct material. So it says $5 per meter. So again, for a unit of road, it is taking 7.5, which from which I guess it means that it takes 1.5 meters of direct material to produce one unit of road, and similarly other. Okay, we will discuss this in detail later. Next, we move on. Fixed overheads are absorbed at a rate of 4 per direct labor hour. Okay. Bellahouston company uses just-in-time production system. Just-in-time production system basically is a system where there is no inventory. Uh, the company produces goods as soon as it receives the order. Basically, in this system, there is no inventory. They do not keep an inventory stock that whenever we will get an order, we will just be pick products from our inventory and sell it to the customer. No, they only produce the products when there's an order with regard to those products. So they as soon as they receive the order, they start producing those products and they deliver and then they later deliver it to the customer. So that is the just-in-time production system. We'll see that if this information comes in handy in the later part. Demand and resource availability for March. Demand for the three products for the month of March is expected to be road is this, bikes is this, and trail is this. So basically, this is what is the demand in the market for all these three kind of shoes. Then we have Bellahouston Company has received a special order from Run Wild, which is not included in the demand estimates above. Okay, so this is the separate order that Run Wild has is asking from Bellahouston. Run Wild are a major sports retailer who have an extensive customer base and are known for stocking the most popular brands of sports wear. All right, so it looks like that it has a very good reputation. It has a very good name in the market. So partnering with Run Wild could prove to be beneficial for the Bellahouston as far as what we can observe as far as now. The order is to supply a maximum 200 pairs of each type of shoe at a discount of 8 on the standard selling price. All right, so this is a specific order where they are asking 200 pairs of each kind of shoe. But since this is a good deal because Bellahouston would be able to sell way more products quickly than selling it in the market to Run Wild. But what it has to compromise for that, it is that it has to offer a discount of $8 on the standard selling price. So, okay, and then we will see what we will do with this info. Run Wild will charge a financial penalty if the order is not fully complete in March. Okay, so they can also charge a financial penalty if this order is not complete. So we have to be cautious that if we run into loss, if we are not completing this order in the month of March. If this first order is successful, Run Wild would be keen to enter into a regular supply contract. Oh, that's a really good news for the Bellahouston because if it fulfills the order in the month of March, it is likely that Run Wild would be keen to entering into a regular supply contract, which would be increasing the future sales for the Bellahouston. So from what I can see now, that partnering with Run Wild could be very, very beneficial for Bellahouston. And accordingly, as we saw in our requirements, that we would be needing to calculate an optimum production plan. So keeping in mind of that we fulfill the Run Wild's order, as it is also asked in the first requirement, that we have to assume that order needs to be fulfilled completely. We have to create an optimum production plan accordingly. Usually, Bellahouston Company has sufficient resources to meet production. However, during March, the maximum availability for the following resources has been identified: direct material, direct labor, machine time. Okay, so this are the limited, uh, basically, it's not like we have unlimited availability of the resources to produce the products. We have limited, and these are the following numbers that we have to keep in mind while calculating our optimum production plan. Last, demand and resource availability for the month of April. Bellahouston Company predicted that the resource availability in March would continue into April. However, it has been discovered that the availability of direct material and direct labor will be 15% less than in March. Okay, this is interesting. So it says that in the month of April, 15% will be the availability of direct material and direct labor will be 50% lesser. So accordingly, we would be needing, I think, since it relates to the third part. Yeah, because in the third part it does say that to determine the optimum usage of resources in the April. So here we will be taking the help of linear programming to basically create the equations and see that how it all fits. Then the last line, the available machine time and demand estimates are unchanged. Runwild would not be placing an order in April. Okay, so we would be looking just at the general order. This one, the demand and resource availability for month of March. We would be looking at that, and we need not to take into consideration the order from the Runwild. Okay, so now we have read the question as well. Pranjal, any doubt that you have till now?
No, not yet.
All right, all right. Okay. So we start with our first part, which is calculate the optimum production plan and the resulting total contribution earned for March, assuming that Runwild is applied. Before we begin, we need to understand what is optimum production plan. An optimum production plan is a production plan where जहाँ पे हमें ये देखना है कि जो हमारी डिमांड है, what is our demand? Demand is to, firstly, the priority is to fulfill the Runwild's order, and then the general demand that we have for the like general market. These three, for these three kinds of products, we need to see that to meet our demand, do we have sufficient resources? Do we have sufficient direct material? Do we have sufficient direct labor? Do we have sufficient machine time that we can fulfill all these orders, both the Runwild and the general orders? Okay, so accordingly, we need to create an optimum production plan accordingly. It is likely, it is likely that one of these resources would be a limiting factor. It could be more, but definitely at least one of these would be a limiting factor. What I mean by limiting factor is that to meet our demand, one of these resources will fall short of producing the products with the producing the number of products which we need to fulfill our demand, both the Runwild and the general orders. So one of these will definitely fall short. So when one of these resources will fall short of meeting our demand, so we need to create a plan in a way that we generate the maximum contribution. See, it is a business. Our maximum objective, our final objective, our ultimate objective is to maximize our contribution, right? So we would be looking at the resources which is limiting which one of these products, whether it is road, whether it is spike, whether it is trail, which one of these products is generating the maximum contribution per unit of that resource, For example, it is direct material that 70 to 100 meters is not sufficient to meet our demand. It may be that we need more direct material. So we have to basically produce, uh, we have just this much availability. So how we can maximize our contribution from this available number of resources that we have? So the one with the limiting factor, we would be seeing that which of these products generates the highest contribution per unit of that limiting factor. When we will do the question, it will be more clear. So this is the overall summary that uh, how we will be calculating the optimum production plan. Keeping in mind a few things. Firstly, our priority is to first fulfill the Runwild order. Then we will move on to the general orders. Secondly, we have to keep in mind the limiting factor, that which one of these would be the limiting factor. All right, so just let me write here part A. Before I write part A, I'll just make it more clear that what steps we will be following while calculating this optimum production plan. So here is what we are going to doing. So if there's one limiting factor, then the process that the calculations we perform is as per the method known as key factor analysis. So first step is to identify the scarce resource. When we have by scarce resource, I mean the limiting factor. Which one of these resources is a limiting factor? The second step is calculate the contribution per unit for each product. Why this is necessary? So that we can calculate the third, so that we can do the third step 3, which is calculate the contribution per unit of the scarce resource for each product. Why we are doing this, I'm just repeating again, so that we can maximize our contribution. Step 4, rank the rank the products in order of the contribution per unit of the scarce resource. It's pretty obvious when we have calculated the contribution per unit per scarce resource in the step 3, we will be ranking the products, that which one of these products generates the highest contribution per unit of the scarce resource. So accordingly, we will be producing that kind of product first, and the one with the third ranking, so that we will be producing in the last. Step 5, allocate resources using this ranking and answer the question. Okay, here we go. So I'll just write here optimum production plan. Here we go. Before we write, it is necessary that we write that how many, basically the demand that we are required to meet. We need to write how many number of units of each product we have to produce. So a road, then we have spikes, and then we have trail. And here I'll write total. Okay, I'll write here number of units that we need to be. This is simple till now. We need to just identify what's the demand. So first, it is very necessary that we read the requirement very carefully. In the first part, it is specially mentioned that assuming that the order with run wild is supplied in full. So it is our compulsion that we fulfill the order from the run wild first. What is the order? 200 pairs of each type of shoe. So definitely this is going hand in hand. Basically, right now we are calculating the total demand. So we will be adding this 200 pairs of each type of shoe plus the general demand for all these kind of shoes in the market. Okay, so I'll be adding 200 to each of these, and that would give us the total demand that we need. So I'll just write here the general demand for road is 2300. I'll add 200 from the run wild, it is 2500. Similarly, I will be doing for the other kind of shoes as well. 1400 plus 200, which will be 1600. Then we have trail, 1650 plus 200, which is 1850. So I can just total it out here. The total number of products we require. Now, again, I'll mention it again. Right now, we are trying to find which one of the resources is our limiting factor. So to calculate the limiting factor, sorry, I'll be writing here each resources here: direct material, direct labor, and then we have machine time. Okay, we have number of units. And we have been given that how much does it cost to produce, to how much cost does it take for each kind of shoe, for each unit of shoe. Basically, how much material does it take, how many resources does it take. So from here we need to find that how many units of each of these kind of resources taking to prepare one unit of shoe. So for example, I'll just see this for direct material. It does say here that it takes its cost is basically $5 per meter, and it is taking $7.5 to prepare. It is mentioned here, as you can see, per pair of shoes. So to create one pair of shoe, it is taking us $7.5. So from here, we can calculate that how much does it take, how much material, how much direct material does it take to produce 1 unit of road. So how can we do that? We can simply divide 7.5 from 5. We get how much resource does it take to prepare 1 unit of shoe. We have 1.5. Similarly, we will be doing for all of these. It takes $3 and it is $5 per meter. So again, from here, I think it is 0.6, 3 divided by 5. Sorry, 3 divided by 5. Okay, just a second. Just give me a number. I'll put that number. Yeah, very good. Similarly, we will be doing for all these. Pranjal, any doubt you have here till now?
No, we are good to go.
Okay, I'll just put it as number. So if I divide 6 divided by 5, it is 1.2. Okay. 6.6 divided by 5, it is 1.2. And then we have direct labor. Again, we'll be calculating for each of these. So 7 by 7, 10.5 by 7, 7 by 7, and we have 10, 10.5 divided, just 10.5. Then we have again 7 for the train. 7 divided by 7. Last machine time. Machine time is in hours. As you can see, direct material, the unit is meter, direct labor is hour, and for machine hours, it is also hour. So again, 4 by 10, 10 by 4 by 10. Then we have 6 by 10, and lastly 4 by 10. Okay. 6 by 10, and then we have 4 by 10. All right. So what you can see here, like we have now calculated per unit, how much does it take from each resource to produce 1 pair of all these kind of shoes. We will be now adding these. How now we need to calculate basically the total resources, not in terms of dollars, but in terms of the quantity. So that we can, because so that then we can compare it with our availability here, which has been already given for the month of March. Once we calculate that how many total quantity does it take for each of these resources, we will then be comparing it with this availability that has already been given in the question. So how do we calculate this? We will simply we will simply multiplying this per unit quantity into the number of units that we need. So we will multiply. And again, you can use these formulas in the exam environment. It's totally allowed, so that you can save time. Or even if you like want to calculate on your calculator, I think then it would be fine. But I do think that it would be easier on the Excel. This is a bit long calculation, but I think for the other calculations, it will be easier to just use the formulas. So, okay. Just a second. So I can just write 2,500 plus we have 1.5 into 1,600 plus 1,850, 6,750. All right. And lastly, we have 0.4. So this will be 1,000 plus 16.6 is, I think, 960 if I'm not wrong. Plus 0.4 into 1,850. Just a second. It's 2,700. Just give me a second. I think I'm done. So calculation wrong here. 0.2. Is it 0.2? 0. Just let me check once. It is 6 divided by. Oh, okay. Sorry, by mistake I took the fixed overheads here instead of the machine hours. So it will be 2 divided by 3. So these will be 0.2 and 0.3. All right. So here we have the total quantity. Now, since we have now calculated what total quantity we require from each resources, we can compare it. And from what I can see, we have here one limiting factor, which is the machine time. We are able to fulfill we have sufficient direct material since the required quantity is less than what is available to us. Similarly, in case of the direct labor, but we need more machine time, 1,875 hours compared to what we have. We have only 1,815 hours. So it is 60 hours less than what we require to fulfill our whole demand. So based on above, machine hours, we can write here, machine hours is our limiting factor. Okay, now our next step, we will be performing step 2 and 3 together, so that basically they will be done hand in hand. We will need to calculate. Our ultimate aim is to calculate contribution per unit of the scarce. So I'll just copy it from here for each product. Sorry, calculate per unit of each product. I will be pasting it. Now we need to write the shoes, the type of shoes here. Type of shoes, which is the road, spikes, and trail. Okay, so contribution. We need to just give me a second. Contribution per shoes. I guess yeah, the type of shoes will come here, and we have to find contribution, right? So contribution would be here. Contribution. Okay, the second step, contribution per unit of shoes. Per unit of shoes. Then we have so contribution per unit of scarce resource, which is our machine hour. Okay, and how we will be calculating contribution per unit of scarce resource? Simply how much contribution we produce, how much contribution we generate from one pair of shoe divided by the uh, how much machine hours does it take to produce that same unit. So we will be dividing it with the number of machine hours it take. I'll write here machine hours. How do we calculate the contribution per unit? It is a long question, no doubt. It does take time. It does include a lot of calculations, but these are pretty simple calculations, and these are such kind of calculations which doesn't cause much confusion, honestly. These are pretty simple. So calculate contribution per unit of shoes, per unit or per pair of shoes. We have been given the selling price, we have been given the variable cost. All we need is to subtract variable cost from the selling price, we would get our contribution. So 6.2 minus 62 minus 62 minus 7.5 minus 7 minus 4. We have contribution for this. Then we have 45, 3, 10.52. 45 minus 10 point, sorry, 3, 10.5. Okay. Minus 10.5 minus 3 minus 2. we have 29.5. And lastly, we have 52,673. 36. Number of machine hours, we already been given that. It was already calculated above. Machine time, here we have the machine hours. We can directly copy it and paste it here. And now all we need, now we will be able to calculate that for a unit of scarce resource. What is a unit of scarce resource? The scarce resource is machine hour, and what will be its one unit? It will be 1 hour. So basically, how much contribution we are generating through each of these kind of products in 1 hour. So the one with the highest contribution, we will be keeping it on the first position. The one with the least contribution per hour, we will be keeping it at the third rank. So I'll divide it by this. We have 108, and I'll just use the formula here. Yeah. So here we can see, so from what we can see, it is the spikes which is generating the highest contribution per hour, per machine hour. So we will be giving them the rankings, which is the fourth step. So this is one, and then we have the trail, and then we have the road. Okay. Okay. We have identified the limiting factor. We have calculated the contribution per unit of scarce resource. We have applied the ranking. It's now time to calculate the optimum production plan. Now, based on this ranking, we will be producing the one with the highest ranking so that we can maximize our contribution, keeping in mind the limited availability of the resources that we have. So don't forget, our first priority is to fulfill the run wides order. Okay, so 200 roads, 200 spikes, and 200 trails. What will be the next column? The next column would be the machine hours. Why? Because we have to keep in check that how many machine hours these are using, so that definitely there will be some balance remaining. So at the last, we would not be left with sufficient, sorry, just a second. We would not be left with sufficient machine hours in the last. So we need to check that whatever the last product will be, how many units of that last product, the one with the least ranking, we can produce with the leftover machine hours that are left with us. Okay, so how many are available? 18.15 hours are available. I'll just write it here like this. We have the what is our contribution basically. So we will be creating the production plan, that is fine, but at the same time, we need to calculate the resulting contribution. So we will be adding just another two columns here, and then we can also calculate what is the contribution earned for the month of March. Contribution per unit, again, per unit, and then we will be writing here total contribution. Perfect. So machine hours, how long does it take? So roads require 200. We need 200 roads. So 200 into 0.4. We have 80. Again, 200 into 0.2. I'm taking this from here. How many hours does it take to produce each unit? Just right here. And then we have 0.3 into 200. Then we have contribution per unit. Remember, it was told to us that there was a discount while we were fulfilling the order of the run wild. It is 8. It is 8 on the standard selling price. So if we are discounting $8 on the standard selling price, it is obvious that the contribution will also reduce by $8 because the variable costs are going to remain same. So we will be just subtracting 8 from each of these contribution. So the second step is coming in handy here now as well, that we will just need to subtract 8 from these so that we can calculate contribution per unit. And again, you can use these formulas. You need not go to the question again and again. In an exam environment, it will be easy to just place two windows side by side, and then you can easily will be able to uh, just see the numbers from the question and accordingly apply to them. Okay, now it's time to calculate total contribution. This multiplied by 200, and you can just copy it here, and we can simply use the formula, copy and paste the formula. Okay, so this was the run wild. It's now time for the general orders that we need to fulfill. The total number of machine hours we have used while fulfilling the run wilds order is 180 hours. We will be subtracting it. I'll just copy it here. Again, we would be needing the same table. So I'll just copy it here. And I'll just subtract here how many hours are remaining with this. So 180 minus how much would it be? So it will be 1635. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. It's 1635 hours left with us. Okay, now what different we are going to do here? Remember, we applied the ranking. So since this was our compulsion, this was our priority, that we need to fulfill the run wilds order. This was our priority. So we could, like we have mentioned it in any order, that 200 roads, 200 spikes, and 200 trails. But now that we are moving on to our general demand, we need to apply the rankings, and based on the rankings, we first need to produce the spikes. How many spikes? As per the market demand, it is asking us to produce 400 spikes and 400 pairs of spikes. Then we have sorry, the ranking, the second ranking was for the trail. The trail has 1650 pairs. 1650 pairs. It's trail, right? Then we'll see that how many are we left with machine hours, and accordingly we will be reducing them. I'll just delete this I had copied. So contribution per unit, this will be the now same as what we had calculated, because we are not offering discount to the, sorry, we are not offering discount to the general market. So 29.5, and for trail it is 36. You can again take it directly from the machine hours. 1400, again multiplying it by 0.4, and 1650 multiplying it by 0.3. Sorry, it was 0.2. Yeah, 280 hours. It's time to calculate the total contribution, 29. I'll just use the formula here, into 1400, and 36 into 1650. Always remember that what you are multiplying with, we need to find the total contribution. So contribution per unit multiplied by the total number of units that we are producing. Don't by mistake or ever multiplied with the machine hours. Just because it is just towards the left doesn't mean that you just need to multiply these two. You need to multiply the contribution per unit by the contribution, by the number of units that we are actually producing. How many are we left with? If you just add it up, you can perform these calculations in the calculator. 775, we are still left with 775 hours. Okay, so we were calculating the total contribution for our general orders. We have already calculated it for the spikes and trail. Now, since the ranking for road shoes was 3, we will be calculating at last. And now we need to check that how many machine hours are left with us, based on which we will be calculating that how many road shoes we can calculate. So as per this, we have consumed 775 hours additional apart from these 180 hours here. And now we need to check how many hours are left with us. I'll just calculate how many hours are left with us. It is 1635 minus 775. We are left with eight. We are left with 860 hours. And now we need to see how many road shoes we can calculate, we can produce with 860 of machine hours. So 860 hours, and we know that it takes 0.4 hours to calculate 1 unit of road shoes. So we will be simply dividing 860 divided by 0.4, we get 2150 road shoes. So contribution per unit, we know it's 43.5 as per the market. It is 43.5. And now we can calculate the total contribution by multiplying the contribution per unit by the number of shoes that we can produce within the limited machine hours available. It is 2150 road shoes. So we have 93525 road shoes that we can produce. Now we have calculated the contribution that we will obtain from each of these kind of shoes. Basically, we have utilized all our resources. We have not utilized all our resources. We have utilized all the resources of our limiting factor. And what this means is that we can produce only these many products with the resources available to us. So now it's time to calculate the total contribution that we can generate from this production plan. The total contribution, it is, you can use the sum formula. I'll add these, plus I'll again use the sum formula, and I'll add these. So we have the total contribution of $211,225. Now remember, this is in terms of dollars. I've not put the dollar symbols here, but it is necessary for you to put the dollar symbol. Just give me a second. I put it here. These are in terms of dollar, and this as well is in terms of dollars. So we have calculated the total contribution as it was asked in the question, to calculate the optimum production plan and the resulting total contribution earned for March. Just let me check everything going good. Yeah, everything's right. Right. So now we move on to our second part of this question. So all this, you need not write anything more than this. I know it is a bit lengthy question. It involves a lot many calculations. So this is the nature of linear programming. This is the nature of limiting factor topic, where you genuinely require to perform these many calculations, but also know that these calculations carry 7 marks. So that is significant. Now we move on to the second part. It is what it is asking: calculate the maximum financial penalty Bellahouston company would be prepared to accept from Run Wild if it doesn't complete Run Wild's order in full. Okay, so what it is saying, that we read in the question that Bellahouston Run Wild will charge a financial penalty if the order is not fully complete in the month of March. So we need to calculate that maximum financial penalty. So now what does it mean that what if it does not complete the Run Wild's order in full? If we are saying that we would not be completing the Run Wild's order, then It does mean that we are prioritizing the general orders first, the general demand first, rather than the run wild's order. So this time, to calculate the maximum financial penalty, we would be comparing the contributions from these two, where first we have prioritized the run wild order, while now we will be prioritizing the general demand first, and then we will be seeing that uh, how many units of the run wild order we can produce, and we would be then comparing those two contribution and see how much benefit do we get, how much extra contribution we earn, and that extra contribution would be the maximum financial penalty that Bellahouston would be prepared to accept. Why that would be the maximum financial penalty? Because that is the contribution. If we prioritize the general demand first, the extra contribution. Why am I saying the extra contribution? Because remember that we fulfilled this order based on the condition that we are offering a discount to the run wild. We have subtracted $8 from each of these uh, contribution to fulfill so that we can accept this order. So definitely when we will be prioritizing our general demand, we would definitely be earning extra revenue because those sales will be based on this contribution, the one with the general demand. So definitely we would be earning some extra contribution, and the maximum financial penalty would be that extra contribution, because if it would be more than that, then it would be necessary for us to fulfill the run wilds order first, to prioritize the run wilds order. So maximum we can uh, maximum financial penalty then that we are ready to pay to the run wild would be that extra contribution, so that we do not incur any extra loss. All right, so I'll just write here second heading. So now we will be uh, calculating the general demand first. Let me write here. Now the general demand also needs to be produced. The products, they need to be put in order of the rankings only, as we did it in the previous production plan, so that the one with the highest generating contribution per unit of scarce resource, we produce that kind of shoes first. So trail, and then we have now, it's not the we are not picking up this, we are picking the actual demand that was for the road shoes in the market, that is 2300 pairs, because now first we are producing these shoes, the shoes uh, for the general market, and now we have the machine hours available. I'll just write here. It is 1815 hours available to us. I'll write it here again, same. I'll just copy it here and I'll just paste it here. All right. So now 1400 spikes, we can simply copy it from here for first these two, because we know it's the same here. For 2300, we know it takes 0.4 hour machine hours to produce one pair of shoes. So for 23 pair of road shoes, we will multiply 2300 by 0, sorry, by 0.4. We get 920. Contribution, we know it's the same as above. We can simply now copy. Again, you need not waste this much time anymore. You can simply copy these and paste it right here. Sorry, Control V. Yeah. So in the Excel environment, you might get some error while copying these, because these are the formulas. So you can just simply see and write these formula manually, write these figures manually, and then it comes the run wilds order. Run wild order. Again, we will be using our ranking here. Why? Because we need to generate the maximum contribution. So 200 spikes, 200 trail, and we'll see that if we have sufficient machine hours left, that we can fulfill the last order as well. We have already consumed here 1695 hours, and so 200 spikes will take, it takes 200 spikes consumes 0.2 of machine 0.2 machine hours, 0.2 into 240. What is for the trail? It was 0.3 0.3 multiplied by 200. We have 60 hours here. Contribution is, we can copy it from here, 21.5 and 28, 21.5 and 28. We need to see how many are we left with. So 1695 plus 100, 1795. How many are we left with? We are left with, just let me calculate. You can calculate this in your calculator that you will be taking with you. 1815 hours minus 1795. We are left with just 20 hours. So how many road shoes can we produce? 20 divided by 0.4. When we divide it by 0.4, we get only 50 road shoes that we can produce with such limited availability of machine hours. Don't get confused between the contribution. Make sure that you enter the right contribution. When we are fulfilling the run whiles order, we need to ensure that contribution is subtracted. We have subtracted $8 from the contribution. Now we can simply multiply the contribution by the number of units, and 36 divided by 1650. Then we have 2300 multiplied by 43.5. Then we have 21.5 multiplied by 200, 28 multiplied by 200, and lastly 35.5 multiplied by 250. Not 200, just 50. Time to calculate total contribution. I'll just copy it here. I'll correct this formula right here. I need to use the sum functionality. I'll add these. I'll again use the sum. I'll add these as well. I get $212,425. Again, always remember to put the dollar symbol here for the best presentation possible. Okay. So as you can see, we have earned extra contribution by prioritizing the general market order first. Why? Because it was already told to us in the question that we would be generating higher contribution per unit by selling the products in the general market first. So what is the maximum penalty? Maximum financial penalty. So I will write it here. The maximum financial penalty that would be accepted by Bellahouston company is, you can write it here. You can just you can since these are pretty small commentary, so you can perform it. You can write it in the Excel file itself, and you need not go to the Word area and write your commentary there. And so this minus the previous contribution, it is 1200. So it is $1,200. The maximum financial penalty that would be accepted by Bella, as I will further continue it as, I'll just make it into currency. Currency, I'm not sure if I can. Now let me just see here if I can. No, I actually can't. So I'll just write it here as it will be as it is the lost contribution from prioritizing, no, from fulfilling the run wilds order completely. So do you understand this as it is the lost contribution from fulfilling the run wilds order completely? When we were completing, when we were fully completing the run wilds order as we have done it here, we were generating $1,200 less contribution compared to when we were prioritizing the general market orders. So this is the maximum financial penalty that uh, Bellahouston should accept. If it is more than that, it is it would be advised to fulfill the run wilds order. All right, so this was the second part of the question. That's it. All you needed to calculate was the maximum financial penalty. Now we move on to the third part, which is what are they asking? Discuss whether the Bellahouston should fulfill Run Wild's order in full in month of March. It carries 4 marks. So for 4 marks, you need to write four well-structured points. It's not like that you can write a few words and basically convey some general points and then you are expecting that you can get full marks. No, you need to link it to the scenario. You can't write general points like this. You just need to write 4 points, four well-structured points to gain 4 marks. Each point will carry 1 mark. You need not write 3, 4 lines. 1, 2 lines would be sufficient, but make sure you convey your message. You convey properly as to what you are trying to say. So discuss whether Belarus should fulfill Run Wild's order in full in month of March, whether we should fulfill the Run Wild's order in full, whether we should prioritize the order, the Run Wild's order first, and then the general market orders. So, if you remember, there was some additional commentary here, some additional information in the question that Renwild has a really big brand. It's a major sports retailer, extensive customer base, and known for stocking. So now we will be talking about a few non-financial benefits that Bella Houston Company could obtain if it prioritizes the Run Wild company's order. So just give me a second. Sorted. Okay, so here we have, this is what you need to write. This is what you, this is just, it's just this many, this much commentary that you need to perform for a 4 marks question. As you can see, it's just 4 liner. Uh, these are around 2 lines. These carry 2 lines, but they do convey the message as what we are trying to say. So let's go through each one of them one by one. Firstly, the contribution earned is higher if the run wilds order is partially completed. We know we have already calculated it in the second part that if we prioritize the general market first, we get higher contribution. But if Runwild's order is not fully fulfilled, Bellahouston Company may not enter into a regular supply contract and future sales would therefore be lost. It was mentioned in the question that if Bellahouston Company fulfills this order, Runwild would be keen to enter into a regular supply contract. So, which would open additional opportunities for Bellahouston and there would be additional future sales. This is first point. You would get 1 mark here for surely. Then we come on to the next point. Moreover, Bellahouston Company may benefit from entering into a regular supply contract through increased product awareness and reputation through Run Wild. We know that Run Wild is a major sports retailer. Its customer base is really extensive and is known for stocking the most popular brands of the sportswear. So it is quite famous. It is very famous. If we partner with them, if we enter into a regular supply contract, it could be beneficial for us. It would increase our product's awareness. It would increase our brand's reputation if Run Wild becomes our retailer. So this is another benefit. Third point, failing to fulfill Runwild's order could also signal to other retailers that Bellahouston Company lacks the capacity to fulfill its obligations, resulting in retailers avoid buying from Bellahouston Company. Now, this is also quite true if Bellahouston prioritizes the general market demand orders, then retailers would definitely, other retailers apart from the Runwild would also be really upset, and this will create an impression in their minds regarding Belaruston that it does not fulfill its obligations. So everyone wants to uh, be competitive, wants to carry a competitive advantage in the market. So retailers will be reluctant. They will be unwilling to uh, to order from Belarusian company because of this act, because of failing to fulfill Ranwild's order. So this would cause additional damage to Belarusian, both in terms of loss of revenue as well as the reputation. This was the another point. The last point, this might also have an impact on end customers, the customers which the ultimate customers of Bellahouston. This might also have an impact on end customers' perception on their product if they cannot buy products due to lack of availability. So not fulfilling Runwild's order would spread the news in the whole retailers market that Bellahouston is not competent enough to fulfill its obligation, it cannot meet its demand. So this is likely to also have a negative perception in the minds of the ultimate customers. So so whenever they would be looking for new shoes, they might not prefer to buy it from Bellahouston. They may not make Bellahouston Company their permanent brand to buy shoes from, because it will show that they have a lack they have a lack of availability. They cannot deliver their goods on time. So these were the 4 points that you can write. You need not write more than this. If you write these 4 points, you will definitely get 4 marks. Easily you will get 4 marks here. Let me know in the comments down below. I'll repeat this again and again. If you have any doubts with regard to this question till now or anywhere, I'll try to reply to them as soon as I can. We now move on to the last part, which is define the variables and formulate the constraints and objective function to be used in a linear programming model to determine the optimum usage of resources in the month of April. All right, so we have one more exhibit left here, which relates to this requirement. So as we read it, we knew that the availability of direct material and direct labor will be 15% less than in March. So always remember, whenever there is just one limiting factor, as was the case in the first part, we always use the key factor analysis. The method we use here, the optimum production plan that we have created, is based on the method key factor analysis. When we have more than one limiting factor, as in this case, in the month of April, as it has been already said here, discovered that availability of direct material and direct labor will be 15% less than in March. So we now have two limiting factors instead of one. Whenever we have more than one limiting factor, we always use the linear programming, where we create the equations and then using those equations, we plot the points on the graph, and we see that we uh, identify the gray area between that equations, between that lines, and within that gray shade area, we identify the point where we can maximize our contribution. You will be never asked to draw a graph in the exam, but you can ask such questions as it is asked here to basically define the variables and formulate the constraints and objective function. By constraints, it means the equations that you are required that we will be uh, creating. So, all right, so let's start with the C part. First, we need to define the variables. What are variables here? Variables are the number of units that we will be producing. The ultimate question is uh, the ultimate answer that we want is how many number of units are we required to maximize our objective function. So it is the number of units which are variable. We can increase or decrease them in consideration to the given constraints, the limiting factor, the direct material and direct labor. Keeping in mind these are the variables that we can increase or decrease based on the given constraints. So we will be defining the variables, and based on those variables, we will be creating our equations. So let's give R to number of road, number of pair of road shoes. We can give S to number of pair of spikes shoes, and then we can give to a T for trail, to number of pair of trail shoes. We have defined the variables. This is what is meant by defining the variables. These are the variables. We know that these refer to the number of pair of units of each kind of shoe. Now we move on to the next. It is asking formulate the constraints. We need to create the equations. So to create the equations, we are creating equations on the basis of constraints. And what are the constraints? The constraints are the direct material and the direct labor. So since it is asking in the month of April, so this is what we will be looking here, the availability of direct material and direct labor. We know that they are saying that it is 15% less than in March. So we will be subtracting 15% from 7,200 and 15% from 6,900. It says that machine time is going to remain the same. So that is our another constraint. So let's write it here. We know, just let me go there. First, let's calculate that what will be the our actual available quantity for each of these resources. So it was 7,200. So if it is 7,200 and it is 15% lesser, so we can simply calculate the 85%. 100 minus 85 is 100 minus 15 is 85. Similarly, we can do it for the uh, for the direct labor multiplied by 0.85, sorry, 6,900 into 0.85. And lastly, we have 185. They have already said that it is going to remain the same. So I'll just write formulating the constraints, formulating the constraints. It's time to create the equations. How we will be create the equations? You remember we had calculated that how much each quantity does each pair of unit of each these three kind of shoes produce. We had already calculated it. It is right here that 1.5 meters of direct material is used by road, 0.6 meter by spikes, 1.2 by. We had already calculated this. 1 hour, one direct labor hour uh, utilized by road, 1.5 labor hour utilized by spikes. So these we will be utilizing to create our equations. Just give me a second. All right, I want to know. So how are we going to? So simply 1.5 into R plus 0.6 into S plus plus we have 1.2 into T. So this is, as you can see, I have multiplied the variables with the quantity consumed by them. Similarly for the direct labor and machine time. So it is 1 hour plus 1.5 S plus 1 T, and lastly 0.423. So 0.4 R plus 0.2 S plus 0.3 T. Now the question comes as to what will be, which sign are we going to use here? Whether it will be greater than, whether it will be lesser than, what sign are we going to? So we know that we have this is our availability of resources for the month of April, right? So the number of units, the resources we can consume can either be equal to these or less than these. So it's pretty obvious from here that we will be using a lesser than equal to symbol. I'll just write it from here. I'll just add it from here. Okay. So this is what we will be using it here. You can simply copy it. And here you have the symbols. So these are the first three main equations that you are required to write. Apart from this, there are some additional equations that you should write. For example, we know the demand. It was already mentioned that the resource availability would continue, and yeah, here the available machine time that we have already considered, and the demand estimates are unchanged. So we can also create equations for the demand. How much is the demand for each of these kind of products? What will that be? R would be, for R, it will be 2300. For S, it will be what it was? It was 1400, right? 1400. For T, it will be 1650. Again, we are not adding here the order from the run wild because it is specially mentioned here that Run Wild would not be placing an order in April. Had it would be placing an order in the month of April, that is 200 pairs of each, we would be adding 200 to each of these. This is just the general demand, which is remaining constant from the in the month of April when we compare it from the month of March. Again, we will be using the same symbol. Either the demand is equal to these or less than this. So this is additional three equations that we have created. Lastly, to show that these these variables are not negative, you can also mention that RST, sorry, RST are not negative, which means that they are more than zero. So that's it. So this is the non-negative equation basically to denote that these figures, that these numbers, obviously it is the number of pair of units. So how can those be lesser than zero? How can those be negative? Either they can be zero or it can be a positive figure. It can be a positive number. A number of pair of shoes cannot be a negative number. Lastly, there's just one more thing left. Define the variables and formulate the constants. We have done here till now, till this. Lastly, the objective function. The objective. What is our objective function? I've been saying this from the beginning of the question that our objective is to maximize the contribution, to maximize our contribution. So we need to define, we need to create a equation for that as well. What it will be, we can denote C as the contribution, which is equals to, it will be, now how will you calculate the total contribution? How we have calculated the total contribution here? We multiplied the contribution per unit by the number of units that we were actually producing, right? So 43.5, again, remember this is for the general demand. This is general, these are general orders. So the contribution would be the normal contribution, not subtracting 8. Don't mistake that. Don't make a mistake regarding that. 43.5 hour, and then how much contribution were we earning from S? It was 29.5, 29.5 S, plus it was 36. Yeah, the contribution was 36 T. This is our objective function. Our objective is to maximize the contribution. We have multiplied the contribution per unit of each kind of product multiplied by the variables. What are the variables? Number of pair of each kind of shoes. Through this function, we can easily calculate our maximum contribution. And that's it. You need not do anything else. This is what was asked in the question. Don't try to give additional uh, answer. It's just simply a wastage of time. Always check to what is given in the question, what is asked in the question, and only answer that. Anything apart from that would be just your wastage of time, and you would not be earning any additional marks. So thank you everyone. This was the Bellahouston Company previous year question. I hope you understood this question fully. If you have any doubts with regard to this question, do let me know in the comments down below. I try to answer all of them as soon as I can. And hit like and subscribe to our channel if you want more such ACCA question based videos. Thank you.